Taurus, there's someone, you know who it is. I don't even need to say their name because the moment I said that, a face appeared in your mind, maybe with a slight tightness in your chest, maybe with that strange mix of affection and weariness that only exists when someone truly matters and at the same time seems out of place in your life. Have you ever thought about giving up on this person, maybe more than once? Perhaps that's one of the reasons you're here now, looking for something to justify what you feel, or something to give you the courage to stop feeling it. And this is where I need to tell you something that could completely change how you're looking at this situation. Taurus doesn't give up easily. Almost everyone knows that. But what almost no one talks about is that Taurus has such an efficient, silent, and well-constructed protection mechanism that sometimes it manages to give up on someone without ever really trying to understand why that person came into the world. It cuts them off, organizes them, moves on, and it calls that strength, clarity, self-respect. But what if that's not the case? What if the person you're thinking of giving up on is exactly the person God chose to reveal something in you that's still waiting to exist? This isn't about romanticizing suffering. It's not about staying where it hurts. It's about something much more specific than that and much more disturbing than it seems at first glance. There is a huge difference between a presence that has come to drain and a presence that has come to awaken. And Taurus, with all its powerful instinct to recognize what is real, sometimes confuses the two at the worst possible moment, at the moment when it would still be possible to understand, at the moment when what was being offered was still available. You were built to last, to take root where others just make way, to love with a depth most people can't offer. But that same construction, when it becomes too closed in on itself, can prevent you from seeing what only appears when someone different knocks on the door. And that person, the one whose face you recognized right at the beginning, might be exactly that beat. Taurus carries people in silence. They rarely talk about it easily. They have those connections that remain even when they should have already found a place, not out of weakness, but because Taurus feels there's still something incomplete there. A seed they planted, and they don't yet know if it will sprout. That seed doesn't leave their head because it hasn't left their heart. And the heart of Taurus, when it plants something real, plants deep. The question is, do you know what you planted? Do you know what you're waiting to sprout? What I want to show you here isn't advice, it's an architecture. The invisible architecture of how certain people enter a Taurus's life, what they activate, what they reveal, and why giving up on them prematurely might be the only regret a Taurus can't explain, but feels in their bones for years, because Taurus feels in their bones what their mind is still trying to translate. Imagine a house, not just any house, your own, the house you would build if you could choose every brick. Taurus chooses people like that, with discernment, with care. They don't let just anyone in, not because they're cold, but because they know the value of what's inside. And when they do let someone in for real, they let them in completely. The problem isn't who enters, it's what happens when someone enters in a way Taurus didn't expect. Someone who doesn't follow the building's rules. Someone who meddles in rooms Taurus has never shown anyone. This person creates a kind of discomfort that Taurus rarely admits, because admitting it would mean acknowledging that the discomfort has a deeper reason than it seems. What if the deepest reason for your feelings for this person is that they came along to show you something you're not yet ready to see? The question is not whether you should give up or not. The question is, do you really know why this person is in your life? Do you really know why this person is in your life? This question isn't rhetorical, it has an answer. But the answer doesn't come from where you're looking right now. It doesn't come from analytical logic, nor from pride that seeks conclusions. It comes from a deeper understanding than the isolated situation can offer. It was while searching for answers to this that I found this digital book, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose. What surprised me wasn't what it says about Taurus in general, it was how it illuminates the particular way Taurus perceives connections and why sometimes it ends them prematurely without understanding what was being offered in that relationship. It's not a relationship guide, it's an attitude, a way of looking at the people who have come into your life not as coincidences but as parts of a larger architecture. And for Taurus, which builds solidity in everything it touches, understanding what is being built in the layers that don't yet have a name is what changes everything. You are currently in a specific moment. You still have that face in your mind, That feeling is still open, still active, and it is precisely in this state, in real contact with something that has not yet been resolved, that content like this has the most power to reach you. The mind will close what is open now. It always closes. It doesn't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now. The link is in the first pinned comment. But be aware, this content may be taken down. Click now and download your copy. In the comments, tell me something. Is there someone in your life who's somewhere in between, neither fully in nor fully out? Tell me how you feel when you think about them. No need to explain who they are. There are people who come into a Taurus's life as questions, not as answers, as questions. And Taurus, who prefers the concrete, who prefers what they can touch, confirm and hold, doesn't quite know what to do with a question that has a human face. Every connection carries information. This is the part most people ignore because it's easier to classify a relationship as good or bad, useful or useless, healthy or complicated, than to sit with the discomfort of asking, what is this specific presence telling me about myself? Imagine a key. You find an old key, out of context, without knowing what it opens. It doesn't seem to match any lock you know. The instinct is to put it away in a drawer or discard it. But what if the lock it opens is a part of you? An inner chamber you didn't even know existed that remained closed not because it was forgotten, but because you hadn't yet found the right tool. There are people who arrive exactly like that, who don't fit the pattern that Taurus has built for itself, who enter from an angle that you didn't foresee or plan for. And the strangeness you feel in their presence isn't a sign of incompatibility, it's a sign that something unknown within you is being touched for the first time. Taurus was made to recognize what is real. It has an internal sensor for this, a reading ability that goes beyond what it can verbalize. And when something is real, even if uncomfortable, even if complicated, even if still unexplained, some part of Taurus recognizes it. Not in the conscious mind, deeper down, in the bones, as I said before. That's why this person won't leave your head. That's why this doubt won't go away. It's not weakness. It's the recognition of something the mind is still trying to interpret, but that the heart already knows matters. And what exactly did this presence activate? The presence of certain people functions like a frequency you've never heard before, but which somehow resonates as if you've known it forever. It's not the content of the conversation. It's not what they did or said or promised. It's something prior to all that, a way of being that awakens something in you that has been quiet for longer than you can remember. Taurus has dormant zones, internal places that he doesn't visit often because they are too costly. Emotions that have remained stuck at some point in the past, protected by layers of routine, construction, and everyday functionality. Taurus functions very well. So well that sometimes functioning and closure become the same thing, and the difference between the two disappears before he realizes what happened. This specific person, and it's always a specific person, never a category, never a general idea, touched on one of those places. Perhaps you felt something you hadn't felt in a long time. Perhaps you realized a desire to be seen in a different way than you usually are. Perhaps you found within yourself a version that didn't yet have a name, a layer that was waiting for context to emerge. And then came the fear, because when something has been dormant for a long time and suddenly awakens, Taurus's first reaction isn't to welcome it, it's to question it. It's to check if it's real or just another illusion that will cost them dearly. Taurus has paid a high price before. They know the cost of opening themselves up to what's wrong. And this memory, even when it's not conscious, even when Taurus doesn't remember where it comes from, guides their protective instinct with a precision that can be both salvation and a trap. But there is an important distinction here. Sometimes what Taurus calls wrong is simply what he doesn't yet understand. And what he doesn't yet understand is exactly what was placed in his path for him to understand now, not later, now. In this cycle, with this person, that presence activated something real. Something that was waiting, and you can try to erase it. You can occupy your thoughts, build another layer of routine on top, cut off contact, and hope that time will do what it sometimes doesn't. But what has been activated cannot be erased so easily. It waits, with the patience that only true things possess. The question is what you're going to do with what's been activated before trying to close it back. What this presence has awakened in you is no coincidence. And perhaps you are at exactly the point where understanding this deeply before the protective instinct closes what is still open will change what comes next. The digital book ** The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose * speaks directly about how Taurus perceives and processes the emotional activations that come through other people and what to do with them before the protective sensor silences them altogether. It's not theory. It's a tool for the moment you are in now, when something real has been touched, when the issue is still alive, when there is still time to consciously choose what to do with what has been revealed. This type of content arrives at the right time, or it doesn't arrive at all. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's something about Taurus that few outsiders can name, but that Taurus feels perfectly deep inside. It's a kind of loyalty that goes beyond reason, a way of remaining that isn't stubborn, it's rooted. When Taurus truly connects, it connects in time. And Taurus's time isn't the same as anyone else's around them. This creates a very specific phenomenon. Taurus sometimes remains connected to a person not through a conscious choice renewed at every moment, but through something older, a bond that formed before any rational decision, at a moment when they simply felt it was real. And when someone from the outside asks, "Why are you still thinking about this person?" Taurus can't answer easily, not because they don't know, but because the answer doesn't fit into words that the other person would understand, because the other person would operate by logic, and that's not logical, it precedes logic. Imagine holding a stone underwater. You hold it for so long with such silent effort that at some point you forget that your hand and the stone are not the same thing. The stone has become part of your rhythm, part of what you call your constancy. And letting go feels not just like a loss, it feels like a kind of loss of yourself. As if part of what you've built as your identity is tied to that connection in a way you can't visualize without it. But there's an important question here, a question that Taurus rarely asks themselves because the answer might require a painful honesty. Are you connected to this person because they are genuinely part of your journey, or because letting go would require acknowledging that you invested something precious in something you don't yet know how to name? Because accepting the end of something nameless is much harder than accepting the end of something you can explain. This is not judgment. It is the most honest question that the Taurus nature can ask itself, because Taurus knows on some level the difference between loyalty and attachment. But recognizing that difference in real time, when the emotion is still active, when the person still has a face and a history and all the accumulated memories, is the most difficult exercise of all. Taurus can be loyal even to their own suffering. They can protect pain as if it were a precious possession. They can silently build an identity around a weight that no one else knows is happening and call that strength, patience, not being the kind of person to give up. But there's a distinction that changes everything. The most beautiful loyalty isn't the one that lasts the longest. It's the one that remains conscious, that knows at every moment why it's there, that doesn't stay out of inertia but out of choice, that doesn't sustain itself out of fear of letting go, but out of the clarity that it still matters and still has something to offer. And if you're here listening to this, it's because some part of you knows there's a difference between what you've been doing with this connection and what you could be doing. The question isn't whether to stay or go. The question is, do you know clearly why you are where you are with this person? There is one thing that suffering does that comfort never can. Suffering reveals, not in the sense that God uses pain as punishment. That idea is too old and too narrow to account for what really happens when a difficult presence arrives in your life. But in the sense that certain inner layers of Taurus only appear when the external pressure is sufficient. Like gold, which only reveals its purest essence when subjected to heat that other materials simply could not withstand. The person who came to reveal something about you didn't come to hurt you, but they came in a way that hurts. And this distinction between purpose and process, between what is being done and how it is being done, is what Taurus struggles most to separate when in the middle of the experience, when they can't yet see what is being built because they are still inside the construction. Consider this: when a bone fractures and then heals completely, it becomes denser at the fracture point than it was before the injury. Biology does this. It reinforces exactly where it was broken. It doesn't leave it the same. It makes it stronger at that specific point. Emotional pain works similarly when you don't run away from it. When you go through it consciously, something becomes denser, not hardened anger, not stagnant resentment, but real understanding, a solidity you didn't have before because you hadn't experienced it before. Taurus has the ability to traverse. That is one of the most powerful things that exist in this nature. This resistance that is not rigidity, this permanence that is not stubbornness, this depth that is not heaviness. But traversing consciously is different from traversing with resistance. To persevere is to endure, it's to survive. It's to say, I've been through worse, and close the chapter before reading the last line. To go through this consciously is to stop mid-process and ask, what is this building within me? What is being revealed? What from what is being revealed do I need to integrate before moving forward? The person who is on your mind right now, that presence with which this reasoning began, is in the middle of this process, or is at the beginning, or is at a point you can't yet pinpoint exactly, but they're not in the wrong place. The wrong place doesn't generate this kind of question. The wrong place generates indifference. And what you feel isn't indifference. What has been revealed so far is not an abstract concept. It's happening in real time in your life. And how Taurus processes such revelations, whether it integrates or shuts down, consciously navigates through them or merely survives, is what determines what comes next. The digital book Asterisk, the divine path that guides your zodiac sign to a life of purpose. Asterisk works on Taurus's emotional intelligence in a practical way, how to transform what pain has revealed into something you carry as a structure and not as a burden. How to let the fire reveal the gold without turning to ashes in the process. You are at a point where this tool is most powerful, with the emotion active and the issue still open. Don't let it close before it arrives. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There's a type of choice that Taurus rarely makes, but when they do, consciously and clearly, it changes everything. It's the choice not to give up. Not out of stubbornness, not out of fear of losing what they've invested, not out of attachment to a version of themselves built around that presence, but out of a specific clarity. The clarity that it's not over yet, that presence still has something to reveal about you, about what you are capable of building, about who you are becoming as you go through this. I'm not talking about forcing a relationship that has no future. I'm not talking about staying where you're diminished, where your presence isn't acknowledged, where what you offer is ignored or wasted. I'm talking about something more subtle and more powerful than that. I'm talking about not giving up on understanding, because there's a difference between giving up on a person and giving up on understanding what that presence came to do in your life. You can let someone go, and sometimes letting someone go is the most loving and honest act there is, and still honor the purpose of what was experienced. You can release the form without releasing the learning. You can close a cycle without closing your heart. You can move on without diminishing what it meant, without erasing what was real, because the end was difficult. But what happens when you don't give up before you understand? When Taurus goes through this passage, when it stops, looks deep and refuses to close before understanding, something specific happens internally. The root deepens, not as a pretty metaphor, in a real, sensitive, measurable way, in how you feel afterward, in who you become on the other side. Taurus becomes more itself, more solid, more capable of offering what is most genuine to it, because it has passed the test of not running away from what was difficult to name. The people who truly stayed in Taurus's life, those he didn't give up on prematurely, those he went through life with, those who left but whom he understood before letting go, these people left something behind. They left a layer of Taurus that only exists because they were there. And these layers don't disappear. They remain. They remain as strength, as depth, as a wisdom that no concept could have provided, because it was lived, not learned. Imagine a root that grew toward the water, not in a straight line, but winding around rocks, following the moisture of the soil, adapting to what it encountered along the way. This root reached deeper than it would have if the path had been clear. The obstacle didn't hinder it. The obstacle was what truly made the root possible. It gave it direction, depth, the ability to support what's above it without any wind being able to move it. The person who has joined you in this line of reasoning in your mind, in this discomfort that started this video, Maybe precisely the obstacle that is making you truly possible, not the version of you that works, the version that exists. Don't give up, but don't hold on with your eyes closed either. Hold on with your eyes open, and with the understanding that certain presences don't arrive by accident. They never arrive by accident. You've made it this far, you've heard all of this, and you probably know now that the question you brought to this video is bigger than it seemed at the beginning. The digital book *, The Divine Path That Guides Your Zodiac Sign to a Life of Purpose * was designed for this moment in your life when understanding is arriving, but you still need an anchor. It delves into what it means to honor your life's connections with Taurus consciousness. What happens when you begin to see the people around you not as accidents or obstacles, but as parts of a purpose being designed with you. This kind of perspective doesn't disappear when the video ends. It's something that changes how you look at what has come and what is yet to come. The link is in the first pinned comment. The last copies are running out. Click now and begin your journey towards the clarity and genius you deserve. There is something very beautiful in the way Taurus loves, not on the surface at the root, in the way he carries it without making a sound, in the way he remains without needing to announce it, in the way he feels before speaking and speaks less than he feels, and feels more than anyone around him could imagine. The person who came to mind at the beginning of this video wasn't an accident, and the fact that you're here listening to this, feeling this, still with this issue fresh inside you, wasn't that either. Sometimes God puts someone in your life not to solve something, but to reveal something, and the revelation doesn't happen when the situation is resolved. It happens when you stop running away from the issue the situation raises, when you decide to look at what has arrived with more curiosity than fear. Taurus has roots that most people will never have. It has an ability to build, to sustain, to offer a solidity that is rare and necessary in the world. But this ability doesn't exist despite the difficult presences that have come. It exists because of them, because of the questions they raised, the layers they touched, the discomfort they brought, which wasn't bad, it was necessary. It's what made the root grow deeper than it would have if everything was simple and easy, and the way Taurus planned. You don't need to have the answer right now. You just need to not close it before you understand. And if that's the only thing that stuck with that video, it was enough.